Bring out the talent.
Bring out the talent.
Bring out the talent.
Welcome to Bring Out the Talent, a podcast featuring learning and development experts discussing innovative approaches and industry insights. Tune in to hear our talent help develop yours. Now here are your hosts, TTA's CEO and President Maria Melfa and Talent Manager Jocelyn Allen.
Jocelyn, I think that we should triple the speed of our theme song next time.
We should do that one of these days. And then the next week, we slow it down. They'll be like, wow, Maria and Jocelyn and David must be sick this week. That doesn't sound so great. I love that. What a great idea. We're doing it.
Be good. Absolutely.
Yes.
So spring has sprung.
Certainly has.
Yes.
Sinuses have told me so.
Yeah, absolutely. How come we can't get allergies just in the winter, right?
Right. Because there's other sniffles happening then.
Yes, exactly.
Good to be back, though.
Okay. So today we are talking about a very interesting topic on storytelling in the workplace. So let's get started. Stories serve many purposes, but for those of us in either HR or L&D roles, or probably any role, stories are regularly used to capture attention, make connections, and even create a culture of inclusion. But do you know that stories can also be used to drive performance and build workplace engagement? Did you know that, Jocelyn?
I didn't know that. I'm excited to hear more.
Okay. Storytelling fosters emotional and personal connections that technical and formal training points often miss. In today's episode, we speak with Maggie Redling and Coleman Williams, who are the owners of Wrestling with Talent, to better understand how we can create engaging programs with the power of storytelling. Maggie is a learning leader, coach, and leadership partner. Maggie knew from a very young age that learning was her calling. Her research-minded brain allows her to help teams choose the right intervention, and her positivity allows her to build quick and meaningful relationships. Coleman is a HR and talent leader, learning innovator, and self-proclaimed HR technology nerd. He began his career teaching high school students about business, later finding his passion for helping organizations focus on the future and building a learning-focused culture. Together, they offer a unique combination of education and experience. With the shared goal of helping people think about the worldview a little differently, they bring research and industry's best practices. Welcome, Maggie and Coleman.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks so much for having us.
We're excited to speak with you. I mean, on a couple of different levels. Coleman, when we first met, we discussed our mutual love for wrestling. So, I mean, storytelling, sure, but wrestling, Austin 316, are we let's go down that route for a minute? No,
Yeah, I mean, maybe
matter's important.
Maybe we get together in a couple of days and we record another podcast just about wrestling. We can
Perfect.
Share our opinions on this recent WrestleMania that just happened recently.
Yep.
So.
Yes, I know, and that it's a 2-night event. See, we're already doing it. Maria and Maggie are so do we drop off now? No, I'm just kidding. We're very excited to have you both here and talk about the subject of storytelling in the workplace quite a bit. And I think adding the layer of how you have used it all to create engaging programs is really interesting. I read pieces of your book and the examples that you share, and I love the connection that you're making to make sure that there's efficacy in the workplace with training programs. Can you tell us, Maggie, can you tell us a little bit more about the work that you do with Wrestling with Talent?
Yeah, absolutely. We like to think of ourselves as an extension of an HR team. We want to be that extra set of hands, specifically for teams that are resource strapped. There's none of them out there. None. Every HR team is fully staffed. But it's more than just how can we lend a hand? How can we help build some sort of training program, build competencies for you? Yes, we can do that for you. But our sweet spot is kind of that change management perspective of it all. So it's more than just delivering content. It's what are you doing beforehand to get folks excited? And then how are you going to make it sticky on the back end? So we think about it as a full package and less so just content is content is content. What we want to do is really make sure that it sticks and gets employees really engaged.
Yeah, and as for the name, right? It did come from wrestling and the love of professional wrestling, but it kind of started over like COVID, right? When everybody was stuck at home, there weren't too many places to go. We found a patio that had spaces 6 feet apart, so we were socially distanced. And honestly, over a few beers, we just really started talking about like, why is it that professional wrestling can be entertaining, can tell the story, and why is it that HR is boring, or HR comes across as boring, or nobody wants to be like gets excited about the programs? There's something else. There's something more that you can do. And so it really just started to spin from there. It's like creating the name, creating Wrestling with Talent, and then writing a book and thinking about like, okay, there's so many things that we do that we could learn from that entertainment perspective and incorporate it in our day-to-day work. So things don't have to be boring and we can get people excited about the programs that are rolling out, about the changes that are happening.
Right. So you met at the same company, correct? Like, how did you form this relationship?
Yeah, so we met at a previous company, and I'll be honest, we didn't actually get along at first. Probably our first 6 months working together, we butted heads on a lot of different things. We had very different ideas on how work should get done, on how we should train folks in our organization, about the content that was right for the folks that we had. And it came down to, we got put on a project together, and it was one of those like, someone else should probably do this, but sure, we'll do this like tedious, like very task driven project together, that we really started to open up and realize that, oh, we're a lot more similar than we are different. I don't know, Maggie, if you want to add to that.
Yeah. We probably for that first 6 months didn't have any overlap. And this was a high growth startup. Like, it was fast and furious, and somehow we kept ourselves apart. But it was true. We sat in a basement, literally going line by line, name by name, to go through if someone had done compliance. We didn't have a system at that point, so it was literally 400 lines of names that we had to say, yes, this person took it, check them off. This person took it, check it off. And we ended up using that time to just talk about everything. And then we just started to riff. We realized that we kind of like can bounce off of each other, and started to realize like, oh, wow, okay, we can have fun in even the most mundane situations. So how do we help all of our programs and our employees feel the same way? Then we were stuck. Then we were side by side. Then we just have been stuck together since.
In the face of adversity. I love that. I love that you came together on common ground. And now I really understand where Wrestling with Talent came from. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it was a brawl. Right?
Yes. So you were able to write a book together. So you wrote a book called Step Inside the Ring, How to Be a Storytelling Champ at Work. And in this book, as we mentioned, you use a lot of wrestling characters and anecdotes to help set the scene. And one that I found particularly interesting was when you said, as you look at characters from wrestling, you find that all of them have two things in common: authenticity and credibility. Coleman, how can a leader impart those same characteristics in their roles as a leader and as a storyteller?
Yeah. So I'm going to use the book for a second. I'm jumping later in the book. We talk about a concept that we call fake it, feel it, find it. And it's a journey. It's a journey that not just like wrestlers have to go through, but we all have to go through. And so when you first become a leader, you have no clue what you're doing, right? And anyway, everybody's like, oh yeah, you can be a manager, but you can go through the best training. You can go through a leadership development program, and you can have everything listed. This is how you're supposed to be a leader. This is how you're supposed to show up. You're still not going to be good at it, right? It's that experience that you have to go through. But you fake it, right? You fake it. You show up every day. I'm the leader. I'm going to lead this team. But you have to realize you can't fake it forever, because you can sit there and say, hey, I'm going to copy what my boss does, or I'm going to copy what this leader that I had in the past does. But that only is going to get you so far. And there's some things that you can take with you, and you'll do great. but you also then have to really start to figure out who you are. And so this turns into like feel it, right? So this is where you have to become more of yourself and insert more of yourself into the role. This is pivotal, because if you don't move from that fake it to feel it, where you become more of yourself, you don't get that authenticity, or you don't begin to build that authenticity or that credibility. People will just start to think that you're a puppet. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but you're kind of a puppet of other people around, or you really don't know what you're doing. The other piece of that feel it is also being able to start to say, I don't know. And anyone who listens to this that has worked in an organization or currently works in an organization where you don't feel like you can say, I don't know, I hope that I have enough credibility to at least give you that permission. It's okay to say, I don't know, and ask for help. And it's okay to say it to your team, to the people that report to you, because they don't know everything. They know you don't know everything. And so you don't need to act like that. And with that, right, if I think about the leaders who emulate people, we talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin in the book. We talk about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in the book. If you follow both of their careers, they weren't just Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they weren't just The Rock overnight. They were in this process of faking it very early on. And they went through a couple iterations of what they needed to be or what they should be before they really started to find it, right? And so if you listen to any, or if you read any articles or interviews with them, podcasts that they've been on, the characters that they ended up having the most success with, Stone Cold and The Rock, that was them. That was who they were as a person. It was just turned up, or they found 11. And if you know Spinal Tap, you will know that reference. But they found like, hey, this is who I am. And now I'm going to just continue to turn this up and really try to find that next gear. That's where wrestlers shine. And honestly, that's where leaders shine. When they can step back, they can be themselves day to day. They can insert, like me, when I insert wrestling into everything, and it turns into something that people know that I'm going to have some type of quote from a professional wrestler, or I'm going to try to loop it back. But I love it. I love it. And that's who I am. And people expect it from me now. At first, people are like, oh, professional wrestling. And it's like one of those, like, let me put my sheet over my head so that people don't know. I'm not embarrassed about it anymore. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. We can learn so much, and we can take it and apply it to a business world. And people are there, right? People are there, and they're bought into it. And the more they hear it, they're like, hey, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? Or who are you going to talk about today?
There's so much surprising alignment that you don't think about as it relates. Like, I love that you took that passion, Coleman, and kind of converted it into this, because you're right. Like, I mean, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I always have been. Like, the first love of my life was Hulk Hogan. And I grew up around it too. So I see a lot of the matching that you're doing here. And I have a colleague on my team who also loves wrestling, and our colleagues that we're friends with make fun of us, and we're like, it's all about the story, man. Like, it's like you follow these journeys for years, and the bad guys become the good guys, and then the villains turn around. So like I'm connecting with this so much purely because like I understand your love for the wrestling, but I also, in learning and development, like storytelling and making an impact in order to connect what is compliance or regulation or like required into something that is going to make people excited about it, is everything that we're dealing with in the workplace now. We have multi-generations. We have people who don't even understand the way that they learn or like receive information yet, because we grew up not knowing that different learning paths even existed, right? So you're taking your passion and converting it into a learning path. And that's exactly what learning and development does, is we learn behavior, we fake it, we feel it, we find it. I love it. I love it.
And I always what I love is that as facilitators, as the professionals who are typically delivering the content, we get a chance to model what it looks like to be okay with it. We actually were with a healthcare company, a training team. It was practitioner nurses who now deliver training. And we talked about this concept, like, how do you get into your persona? Like, who are you and who are you when you're in that room? And one of the women was like, oh, Well, I would be wearing this tiara that I always have next to me as I deliver training. And we're like, well, then why don't you do it? She's like, they would probably love it. Yeah, they're gonna love the idea that their trainer has this sparkly thing on their head as they're delivering something. They're gonna remember it for sure. Plus, then she's more confident because she's just in her space. She's just who she is. So it's just so interesting to even see the like click when you just go, well, what if you just tried it? And like give yourself the permission to like step out a little bit and be a little bit more you. People tend to just respond. They love to see real people as real people.
It is. It's all connecting your story. And we keep talking about this. Obviously, it's the theme of the conversation, and storytelling itself being a great way to connect employees with company missions and values. Maggie, can you tell us a little bit more about your actual process and the role that it plays in creating these more engaging workplace programs?
Yeah. Yeah, we actually steal a lot from design theory and design thinking, because what that really at the base of all of that is it gets to audience analysis. It spends a little bit more time really trying to understand who that audience is going to be, what's going through their head, what are they thinking, what are they feeling, what's happening in their day that they may be thinking about instead of whatever program is coming to them, whether it's performance reviews, some sort of training, but what is happening inside. And then we can butt that up against like, what are the outcomes? That's the easy part. It's pretty easy for stakeholders to understand like what I want to see in behavior change. What's hard is to get underneath that layer of the employees on the inside. And we tend to ask a lot of questions. We are question askers. That's really just what we do, because that's how you find out. Whether we can talk to the employees or not, we'll try to dig into like, well, what's a typical day look like? What motivates them? What gets these folks excited? What's the language that we use? We also like to do a lot of research. So as we work with new clients, go look at everything that they've put out on social media, in their website, because every single organization, whether big, small, doesn't matter, has its own language. Everyone speaks differently. So getting really familiar with the words that they choose. I mean, do they choose teammates, employees, colleagues, partners? Like that, even in itself, tells you a whole lot about what that team is like. And then how are you going to change the delivery of whatever you're giving to match that, because you want to meet them where they are and then take them where they need to go. And you really have to start on that ground level and get to know that person as a person first.
So Maggie, you are talking about how it's important to design experiences and opportunities that connect employees to the organization in a way that they feel that they have been seen and heard and they buy into the program. Can you explain what you mean by that and maybe share any examples?
Yeah, I think I'll actually let Coleman steal this one and talk first.
Yeah, no, building the experiences, this is where it gets fun, right? One, this is where like, and I think this is going back even to what I said earlier, like this is the find it. For me, when we have to build the experiences, it's like turn off anything that you're like held to, right? Any walls, any barriers that you put in place for yourself, that your organization's put in place for yourself, take those down, right? Because what you want to do is come up with some of the craziest and zaniest ideas that you can. You're likely not going to get to use the craziest. You're likely not going to get to use the zaniest, but it's a really good way to just start whiteboarding and brainstorming and think about, okay, how can I create and find an engaging message for this audience that I'm working for? And again, it's how outlandish can you actually be during this process? Because while you may get a no to that very first idea, when you start to tone it down just a little bit, you may get the yes that you're looking for. This is an idea that we didn't get to do. Actually, we thought it was too outlandish. We should have pitched it, but we were rolling out a new program. It was a new tool and a new development program, new learning management system, and really just a way to think about kind of growing in your career. We wanted to do an RV road trip to the different sites where we would go and we would do almost like a video diary, and we would do check-ins from the road. And it was really about trying to make our satellite offices feel like they were part of the main corporate office. And then weave in, hey, here's this career development track, and hey, how many different ways or how many times we had to turn around to get here, really using like the road trip as lessons, and as we went along the road, and then like putting a video package together for the news that we had. We didn't do it because we thought nobody would get on board with it. They would say we were too far out there. What we didn't know is like until later that our CPO was like, y'all should have totally done that. You should have totally tried that. And we're like, oh, why didn't we say anything? We thought it was too far. So when you think it's like too outlandish of an idea, at least pitch it and then read the room, and then come and find like your like next like safest idea, and then pitch that one if everybody is like no. But again, it's that excitement that comes around like, oh man, what if we did this? What if we did that? What if we did that? Do we have the budget? Maybe, maybe not. Are we going to get told no? Maybe, maybe not. But it's being able to come with more than one plan. And again, like I said, just be as crazy and zany and as outlandish as possible when coming up with those ideas.
You had a very cool idea or approach that I read about in the book that was about trying to get employees to complete a compliance training program, and it happened during like a certain time of the year every year. So can you tell us more about Operation PSL and what that journey was like?
I first off love that this worked, and this is one of my favorite examples to share to show how much creative messaging and the way you package something can change everything. When you set the stage, you were the Compliance Alliance leader.
Yes. So everyone loves compliance, right? We all love it. And it understand completely and wholeheartedly understand the importance, understand why we do it. But taking some of those courses, it can just be absolutely draining. And it's just one more thing that our teammates, our employees feel like they have to do. And we know that executives love to take courses like anti-money laundering, right? Like they're just like, yeah, I can't wait, because they have so much time to jump in and take it. But really, it's hard. It's hard to get 100% completion in the time frame that you want for compliance, because again, it's tacked on to, here's my day to day. I need to get this. I understand that it's important, but if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to kind of jump in there and click through. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to get people like excited about compliance. And we had around 1,500 employees at the time that we were rolling out a yearly compliance renewal for. And it wasn't a lot of time. It was about 3 hours of time online learning. So not that much, especially when you start to think about medical and other highly regulated industries that have hours upon hours of compliance, have to have compliance trainings every month, banking that has to have it. I mean, it's not a lot, but the startup kind of like, hey, we're fast, we move fast. This 3 hours was a lot of time for people, at least in their minds, right? So we wanted to do it different. So Maggie, you want to?
Yeah. And it felt like we were going to have to pull teeth. Like there was a wall up. The idea that 3 hours of someone's time in a whole month is unacceptable. Can't have it. So we needed to do something different. We needed to not just show like the value of and teach why we do PII training. Why are we doing sexual harassment? There is actual some safety things in there that is truly about caring for our employees. Instead, we kind of took it the other way and say, like, let's make this fun. So Compliance Month was during the fall. For that company, it was in October. So we branded it fall themed. So that meant that we called on haunted houses, on fall festivals and the food that you get there, and pumpkin spice lattes, PSLs. Everyone loves it. At that time, we had a coffee shop that would come into the building here in the Charlotte location. And so we were like, okay, people love that. Let's lean in. Every single communication that we had, so before, during, and then after, tied to that. We had signs up in every office, every satellite office, and on our intranet. If that week was about haunted houses, the brand would be don't get stuck in the haunted house with Michael or whatever. We'd call on whatever scary movie that we wanted to. The visuals would be there. We would talk about the fall festivals, at our town hall meetings, the emails would talk about, are you ready to get your pumpkin spice latte? To do that, you have to complete your compliance. So we ended up taking something that was very unattractive for most of our employees and trying to put a little bit of polish on it and show like it can be fun. We can still talk about it. It's going to happen one way or the other, but let's have fun while we do it instead of feel like it's just a drain. And then the other piece we had, and it was not just the visuals. What was it? We also had competitions.
Yeah. So we had competitions early on. Hey, get your compliance done by this date. And people got a ticket to get a pumpkin spice latte. And then one of my favorite, and we got our exec team on board with this, was we had like a Scarecrow of Shame award. And this was for the last executive to finish their compliance. Now, it wasn't meant like it again, everyone was on board. It wasn't meant to actually shame them, but call attention to, hey, I'm the last leader that did my compliance, and I should have done it. And we actually had them speak on why compliance was important, why they should have gotten their compliance done earlier. They should be kind of setting the standard of how quickly it should be done and what we want to take from it. So it really was like a true like learning opportunity, like to hear from this leader to say, hey, this was important. I dragged my feet. I don't actually have an excuse. My only excuse was I kept procrastinating. And now I'm the one that has to wear the scarecrow shame around my neck and have to talk to you about this. But it was all in good fun. Again, we had buy-in from everyone and it worked. So at the end of that month, we had 100% compliance for every single employee. And it was on time. We weren't chasing people. I think the year before, we probably had like 25% of our people that we were chasing around, trying to get people to do it. We had even less. We had less than 3 hours the year before. And it was because it was just more of like a normal rollout where here's this compliance training. You have to do it. Good luck. Get it done by this date. And again, there was an excitement. Even the departments were challenging other departments and talking about what they were going to win or what they were going to do as part of the how they were going to scare the other team, if you will.
That's great. And I read in your book that you're still doing this every year, right, on the fall?
Yeah, so with ED compliance, so we're not at the same company that we were at before, but we try to use things like this. We recently rolled out a benefits program, and it was near Thanksgiving holiday. So enrolling your benefits, it's easy as pie, right? And people got pies. People got pies for making sure they get enrolled into the benefits on time.
That's a great idea. Have you ever worked with companies where you tried an idea like this and it did not work? And if so, why do you think it didn't work?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Failure happens, seen it many times. And even the best, most comprehensive, thought out plan can still fail. And that's okay. Honestly, it's okay. What ends up happening, I think, when it fails is that you didn't go back to where we started, which is what do the employees actually need? And what are we trying to get out of this? One of the ones that we know has failed epically, just epically. It was around, again, like helping people find their spot in their career. We branded it. It had an icon. It had everything. You could come and listen to be part of a TED Talk conversation. You could be part of a book club. So we tried to give different channels. No one showed up to anything. And it's because that's not what they needed. That's not what career development meant to those employees. Just because we thought watching a video and having a great discussion, reading a book would be good, that felt like torture to this group of people. So it literally crashed and burned. The exec said, we're done. We're just going to stop this. We're never going to talk about this brand again, and we're going to move on. And that's okay. That's okay. Failure happens. You end up learning a lot from it. And you go, okay, well, why didn't you have to do that retrospective and go, what did we miss? Did we not get enough leadership buy-in? I mean, with the compliance month, we had full leadership buy-in from top down. They were fully aware. So did we miss that piece? Because their voices matter a lot. Do we know what the employees really want to be engaging in and what they find fun? So if they don't find that fun, then it kind of dies. So we have to be honest with ourselves and kind of say, hey, y'all, we tried that. It didn't work. That's on us. That's a hard thing to do as an HR team or an L&D, to be like, all right, it didn't work, but I'm going to take ownership of that. Thanks for your feedback. We are hearing you and we're going to stop. So let's look for the next way, next path forward, because we'll find one. And so that right there builds that relationship back with the employees, even when it failed, because they go, okay, I'm being heard. I'm being heard that this isn't working as what I want, so we can move on. But yeah, it's a little painful when something like that doesn't fail. But if you can just find that there's a door open somewhere, just focus on that, and you can pretty quickly turn it back around.
I think that program in itself too was a pivot from how we had maybe traditionally done things. And it was the company the program was for was kind of at this like stage of needing to grow up. And so it wasn't as entertaining. It was much more serious, like the lens that we kind of took for it. And while the company needed to make that turn, the people hadn't started to make that turn yet and weren't ready for it. So I think if we could have maybe integrated some more of like our excitement and some of the like things that we would think were fun, we would have had more buy-in. Again, company needed to mature, people weren't ready to mature. And so we were kind of in this place of, okay, this is where they need to be, but this is where we are. We created where they need to be and not where they are. So we didn't meet them not to keep kind of saying the same words, but we didn't meet them where they were at. And so that's kind of the learning for us is we really have to make sure that we meet people where they're at, not necessarily the company where it wants to be or thinks it should be.
Yeah, that's a really eye-opening statement there, Coleman, because I mean the company is the people too for the most part. The humans that make the company and do the jobs are what make the organization what it is. So you have to meet them where they're at. I mean, as we provide learning solutions in our day-to-day, that's exactly what we're doing too, is both of those things. Where does the organization want to be and where are your people at right now? Because you can't just jump over the water without a bridge or something else to support you. So I like that you think about that and the transparency that you were able to communicate and being like, oh, this way messed up, but we'll be back and trying to proceed in that way. I think it also relates to something that you mentioned in your book about your communication plans. And you mention, I have the quote in front of me, real impact comes when you look at what changes you see coming and map out your communication play. Can you talk to us about the value and the power in planning for change?
Yes. But can we actually start what it looks like when you don't plan or even just do an adequate job planning for change, right? It's a disaster. So we recently saw a contracting tool rolled out, and it was rolled out by a department where there was no communication. Ultimately, one day you get a calendar invite that shows up that you need to attend this training about this new tool. And if we would have spent honestly, if we just spent even just 20 minutes talking about this versus it just showing up on people's calendars, it would have saved a lot of headaches because immediately you start to see questions like, what's this tool for? Do I have to attend this meeting? It just showed up on my calendar. Does my team need to attend? Right? It's just, I don't know why I'm going to this. And the most basic question of what is this tool? Why do I need this tool? Wasn't even answered. And so ultimately, everybody had to take a step back. We needed to pull those invites for training to this nebulous tool that you need to go to off. And let's actually put some of these FAQs. We can pretty much anticipate all the questions that anyone was going to ask ahead of time. And we could have sent out some type of little teaser, some type of little announcement ahead of time saying, hey, we have this new tool. Here's what it is. Here's why it's going to help you in your role. Just small things like that go a long, long way. And again, could have stopped a lot of confusion. And Maggie can actually share a lot more about what it looks like when you do it right.
Planning is one of my favorite things. I love putting together a good timeline and rollout plan. And I think I love it so much because you see it on the back end when it actually rolls out. You see that employees they aren't as confused. They know exactly where to go when they have questions, because questions are good, but you have to figure out where they want to go. And you can start to actually help them build that new habit. Most of the time when you roll something out, you're trying to change a behavior. It takes 30 days for anyone to truly kind of get into a new habit. So planning and taking time before to think about, well, how are we going to help with that? And with that mindset of, okay, we need to help think about this from not just a day of 30 days at least. It helps you on the front end to go, okay, what do I need to do? Where can I communicate? I think that's one of the biggest things. We always go straight to like an email or a Slack because it's easy. It's consistent. Most times that's just how we would go. But one email is never going to be enough. Someone's going to miss it or they're going to file it away. So what other channels do we have at your expense? Every organization has more than one channel. Is it in their Slack channels? Is it a newsletter that goes out, a company meeting, team meetings? You can use your leaders as communicators, like actually treat them as leaders and have them cascade information. But taking time to plan helps you kind of think through, okay, so what message can go through which channel so that I can reach the employees when they need it? Again, it kind of goes back to what you're talking about, Coleman, of we got to meet them where they are. So when are they going to have to do something different? Where are they in their day? Are they on the internet? Are they in Slack? Are they in a team meeting? So what resources do they need to have at their fingertips so that they're ready to do that? How are you going to get them excited? I always love a good drip campaign. I think that you got to slowly get people excited, tease it up, get it in different ways. It depends on your organization, but have a cool GIF coming through your Slack channel and say, are you ready for this? Use the town hall to have a leader say something, but do it really slowly beforehand. So the day of, when you're doing the big, hey, it's here, here's what it is, here's your job aids, here's what training you're going to, whatever it is, they already know to expect it. And then continue to do that on the back end to say, cool, this happened. Here's our sustainment. Don't forget again, because we want to take the guesswork out for our employees. Like that's really what we want. We want them to know exactly where to go for questions, exactly know what's expected of them, and kind of feel like, okay, I'm safe in this. It's new, but I'm not worried. So taking the time to plan can solve all of those things.
Those are both excellent examples because I could see that we are currently not doing something correctly because we are releasing some new products. And it's funny because we did have a company meeting yesterday and we talked about it and we've had certain meetings. But as far as your idea of a drip campaign, that's an excellent idea, just to constantly infuse like the why is this important? Why is it going to help you? But I bet this happens a lot in corporations where they are not introducing something or introducing a change with so much planning.
Yeah, if you think about it, when you have customers outside not your employees, you have customers, you're selling a product. What does marketing do? They always have some sort of teaser campaign, always. Because what is it, 7 times marketing? You have to get people 7 times before they're truly going to understand what your new product is. Do the same thing with your employees. It's just a different view, but you can pull a lot from external marketing to get a lot of your internal programs up and running.
Very good point. And I think, again, like when we look at change, sometimes we do a lot more planning on very large change initiatives, but there are a lot of smaller change initiatives that still need a lot of planning. And we think, oh, it's just this little thing. It's okay. We could have a quick meeting or send out an email. But what's the cost of not having people adapt to that new change, right? You just spent all this time going over it or creating something, and the failure rate of people not adopting to this, I'm sure, is very high if you don't communicate it properly.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. I guess.
So we've learned so many things today, and there are obviously layers of components into storytelling and communicating appropriately. And so we would like to kind of wrap up, as we like to do, is like, what's the one thing that our listeners should walk away with if they're wanting to get started and begin fostering more engaging workplace programs? Like, what is that little thing that you can toss their way?
I'm going to say, like, first of all, go find someone you don't know in your company. If you're someone you never talk to, someone you rarely talk to, if you're in an office, the person that you like see getting their lunch and eating it at the same time as you, or the person that's always on that same Zoom call, but you have no reason to interact with, go put 60 minutes on their calendar. All right. I know 60 minutes, you're busy, they are too, but put 60 minutes on their calendar and get to know them. Spend part of the time getting to know them as a person, getting to know them as a human being, and then spend the other part of the time getting to know about what it is that they do, and you telling them about what you do. Why? One, you now have a new connection at work, but that one new connection can open you up to a lot of different things. One, they can become a supporter of the things that you do, right? They can become an advocate for you in their department to say, oh, hey, they may even may help remove blockers that you have. Maybe you find out that they worked for the CFO, or they worked with the CFO at the previous company, and they have some tips or tricks to get the approval for those outlandish ideas that the CFO is like, I would never pay for this. Why do you want me to give you money to do this? Maybe they can give you tips and tricks on how to sell that to them, or they can give you tips and tricks on how to communicate what it is that you want to do with someone else. At the end of the day, it's just one more connection. And I think over the last 2 years, Maggie and I both have been trying to grow our networks, grow our connections, because it's hugely important, and not just like trying to find clients or partners, but it's hugely important to help us grow as people. The more people we know, the more people we talk to, the more ideas we have. It helps spark new ideas and new thoughts. We hear about new problems that people are having. We hear about, unfortunately, we hear new buzzwords, but it's good to know the buzzwords, because you can at least check what the trending hashtags on LinkedIn and on Twitter are when you need to learn about something. But again, it just helps us grow, and then helps us think about how can we support and do things differently for other folks. And again, I think just build your networks, connect with that one person. If you're listening, connect with one person this week.
Mine ties to that in the sense of, it's just be curious. And not just curious in the field of like HR, learning, leadership, whichever your space is, but curious about everything. I've actually been reading this book about creatives. I've been reading a book about creatives and what you should do as a creative person, if you're a writer, a content provider, whatever it may be. And it's about finding new ways to learn things. So read every book, read podcast or listen to podcasts, watch videos, go to festivals, go kayaking, go experience things that are different all the time, simply because it's going to give you a different worldview. And then your mind will start to wander. And then you get this unexpected inspiration in places like, oh man, what if we tied wrestling to HR? Things like that. You never would have happened if we never stepped outside on that patio 7 or 8 years ago. And that's just because it was something new. And so I just be curious, never shut the door, just try something new, because it likely will spark something cool in your brain.
I love that so much. That's like my catchphrase is I love that. But it really, I like the connections that are being made, because both of those things go together. Like, be curious about the people around you and go meet them, schedule time with them, and be open-minded, learn new things, and don't be afraid to go for gold, right? Go for broke, Coleman, because you never know what those ideas are going to bring back for you. This is really great. I mean, I love the subject matter, obviously holds a special place in my heart. So I think it's really cool that you can take things like that, be proud of them, and apply them to helping others. It's just a very, very cool circular effect there.
Love it.
Now, where the competition really comes in, though, is for my favorite part of the show, the TTA 10.
It's the TTA 10 final questions for our guest.
And technically, this is going to be 20 final questions for our guest because we are going to put the Wrestling with Talent to the test. And in one corner is going to be Maggie, and in the other corner is going to be Coleman. So you're each going to have 90 seconds on the clock. Finishing moves are not required, but encouraged. So we're going to put 90 seconds on the clock. I'm going to ask you 10 very playful and fun questions about yourselves. And whoever finishes the fastest is going to be the TTA 10 champion. And I mean, I think after this episode, we're probably going to have to create a belt, David. So we'll talk about that later. But any questions? And are you guys ready?
Who goes first?
I was going to do Maggie first.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
That works.
All right, cool. Well, David, can we have...
Do I need to mute? Do I need to, not listen so I don't have time to think about it?
No, I got different questions, please.
Oh, okay. All right, we're good.
You were all ready to game show it.
I mean, if I'm going to beat you, which I will.
Do I go in the
going to do it the
soundproof
right
booth
way.
with the headphones on now? Is that what? Yeah. No, you are good, Coleman. David, when 90 seconds on the clock, please.
90 seconds on the clock, starting now.
All right, Maggie, what is your favorite ice cream?
Vanilla.
Name any 2 Disney princesses.
Oh, Jasmine and Belle.
If you could choose any meal to eat for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, some sort of pasta. Really, any kind of pasta.
Hot or iced coffee?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I'm gonna go with hot.
Name any bucket list item that is not yet crossed off your list.
Ooh, I think traveling to somewhere like Japan, somewhere in the east, Far East.
What was the last book that you finished?
Oh, finished? Oh, man. I think it was Standout 2.0.
What is the TV show that you most recommend to your friends to binge?
Oh, Lord, that's hard. I have a lot of them. How about Vanderpump Rules?
Yeah, especially now. The Kool-Aid Man busts through the door. What does he say?
Oh, yeah.
If you were given $1 million right now, what is the first thing you would do?
Buy a trip for me and my friends to go to Cancun or somewhere gorgeous with the beach.
And what's your favorite wrestler catchphrase?
I don't even know. This is awful. It's The Miz, but I don't know what he says. I'm awesome. Is that what he says? We're going to go with that. Sure.
And that's our 10 questions, David. Coleman, your reaction to that? I wish
you're like, you should have
like a
that.
visual.
It was
literal face palm when you didn't know what to say.
Embarrassing.
Is the Miz's catchphrase "I'm awesome"?
It is. Yeah.
Okay, at least I got
See,
it right.
we win.
Because I'm the Miz and I'm awesome, but it's fine.
And I love the
right.
Miz because he was in the real world.
Yes. See, that's how I know him too.
Oh, I know.
So funny. So real quick sidebar. So one of the girls that was on the season with him, Lori, she was the girl who was always singing on the roof. She, in my last job, she used to come buy makeup for me all the time, and I wicked fangirled over her. I was like, "You were beautiful and your voice is amazing. And why are you in Massachusetts?"
Love that.
Anyway, so David, keep that number close to your chest, and we will see how Coleman performs. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right, there we go.
All right, for
Love it.
Coleman, 90 seconds on the clock, starting now.
All right, Coleman, what is your favorite cereal?
Cheerios.
Name any 2 90s cartoons.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Rocko's Modern Life.
Oh, yes. If you could choose any meal to eat for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Cream and mushroom soup. I'm weird, man.
Tea or coffee?
Tea. Sweet tea.
And what is one bucket list item that you have left on your bucket list?
I want to go to Iceland, Greenland. I know they're 2 different places, but those areas.
Somewhere there. If you could live anywhere in the world for the rest of your life, where would you choose?
I would not choose anywhere else. I live pretty much 20 minutes, 30 minutes away from where I grew up. So outside of Charlotte.
Very
But
nice.
if you made me go a little bit further, the mountains of North Carolina.
Okay, I like it. What is the last TV show that you watched?
The Last of Us.
The Kool-Aid Man busts through the wall. What color is he?
He is red.
What was the last book that you finished?
The Bad Seed. It's a children's book.
I know that one. I love it. So we were talking about $1 million earlier. So if Maggie won $1 million today, what would you do with it? Or what's the first thing that first thing you would do?
If Maggie wins $1 million today, I guess I'm going on that trip with her. Yeah.
And what is your favorite wrestler catchphrase?
And that's the bottom line.
My dude. All right. And that is 10, David. So we have the results.
Yes, we do.
Let's hear it.
Maggie checks in with a time of 1 minute and 37 seconds. Coleman, however, checks in with a time of 1 minute 42 seconds. Maggie is our champion. It was it was a close match. It was
rematch.
Well, we will do the salute today using the one-time theme song of Hulk Hogan, stolen from Rocky IV, but that's okay. Well, two competitors stepped inside the storytelling ring today. One stood tall, pitting their opponent after soaring from the top rope. The other got their head slammed into the turnbuckle and flopped onto the canvas below. Maggie, in the words of Randy Macho Man Savage, let me tell you something, Mean Gene. This Maggie was something else. Oh, yeah. Coleman, we could smell what you were cooking, and frankly, it smelled real bad. Maggie, in the words of Ric Flair, you're a limousine-riding, jet-flying, kiss-stealing, wheeling, dealing champion. Coleman, in the words of the late, great Rowdy Roddy Piper, just when you think you knew the answers, he changed the questions, and the match was over. Coleman, since you are such a storyteller, here's a story for you. Once upon a time, there was someone named Coleman. He blew it. The end. Maggie, your story goes like this. A long time ago in a wrestling ring far, far away, a brave warrior named Maggie kicked some ass, took some names, and hoisted the TTA championship belt high. Congratulations, Maggie.
Amazing. Bravo, David. Bravo.
And let's just thank Coleman for being such a good sport.
Yes.
There are no real heels here today, only baby faces, as far as we're concerned.
Yes. You both did a great job. Thank you so much for being our guest. I learned a lot today, and I appreciate you.
Yes, this was really fun. Thank you both so very much.
Yeah, no, thank you. We appreciate it.
For more information on Maggie and Coleman, wrestling with talent and storytelling in your workplace, visit us at thetrainingassociates.com.
We'll see you later, brother.